let's see. I do believe we're live. Let's make sure sound is good. Yep. I do believe we're good.
Cool.
Awesome. So, hello all, and welcome to the Trek Central live stream for the week. Today we are joined by one of TrekCulture's video voiceover combination of the two members, Adam Cleary. So if you want, you can go ahead and plug anything you want for the first few minutes. I usually give people a little chance to plug their stuff before we get into the topics.
I can plug anything I want.
Anything you want.
Wow, I'm going to have to not start that off with more Animal Crossing patter, aren't I? We do TrekCulture. I don't know if anybody's more familiar with WhatCulture, which is our bigger company where we do film, TV, video game, wrestling stuff. But a few months ago, we decided to launch a dedicated Star Trek channel because there's a few of us over on the website who really, really like Star Trek, and we thought there's loads of ideas we got for that, loads of videos we can do, loads of ideas for shows, and it tended to do really well anyway, so we had a bit of an audience for it. So a few months ago, we launched a dedicated Star Trek channel on WhatCulture called TrekCulture, and we do lists, we do roundups, we do the occasional podcast. I did a series review for Picard when that was running, and yeah, we've only been going 2, maybe 3 months, I think, now, but it's starting to go quite well. As myself, our editor Chris, who's the driving force behind the whole thing. He's the guy who just makes us do stuff for this when we're trying to do all the other jobs. Ori, Marcus, Zoe, Ewan. There's a nice big team of us over there, and yeah, we're just trying to get it off the ground. And I think we're at 30,000 subs now. So yeah, the more the merrier. Anyone wants to come join us on there on Twitter, and you can find us on YouTube as well. And I cannot believe that I get to do Star Trek content for a living, because tiny 12-year-old me would lose his mind at that fact. So this is bizarre and wonderful for me.
Yeah, that was kind of my reaction when I got picked up by Trek Central. I was like, cool, I can't wait to cry with joy now, because I get to talk about Star Trek every day as a job. This is great. This is my dream.
All those teachers used to tell me off for scribbling designs of starships in class because it would never get me anywhere. Well, where are you now, Mr. James? I'm on YouTube talking about Star Trek.
Suck it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so today we did have a different topic lined up for this weekend. We had it all listed out, ready to go. And then the news dropped. What was it, 2 days ago? I think
it was 2 days ago. It dropped exactly 5 minutes after I was supposed to have finished work for the week, which was great.
But yeah, so 2 days ago, we got the news that Star Trek: Strange New Worlds is going to be a thing, and so our entire topic got changed. So this week, our discussion is going to revolve pretty much entirely around Strange New Worlds, what we hope to see, kind of what we're expecting to see, maybe some dream celebrity cast. Cast our words are hard. Cast our dream celebrities in the roles. We're just gonna get a really good idea of what we want to see from the show, and maybe even who we want to see on the show. So yeah, I guess before we even get into it, because we did get a new crewman. Thank you so much, Yeoman Colt, for joining the Trek Central crew. And then I guess. Well, the first thing we can go over is just the initial reaction, because I feel like everyone had a very similar reaction to the announcement.
I was totally pumped by this. I think I really like Discovery. I know it's difficult to talk about Discovery on the internet because you get a lot of very intense, very angry men telling you why you shouldn't like it. I really loved what they did with that show.
Too.
But Anson Mount's portrayal as Pike was obviously one of the standout things of season 2. And I said this to you before, I don't think they've ever really technically done a spin-off in the classic definition of a spin-off. The way Joey is a spin-off.
Right.
The way that Frasier is a spin-off. Star Trek have never done a spin-off like that, because it's not like Deep Space Nine is Miles O'Brien's show, and it's not like Janeway was ever propping up the bar in Quarks. They always do brand new crews, brand new sets. So for them to take something that's worked really well already in another Star Trek show and give it life, to give it a complete open palette to do whatever it wants, is so exciting, because they haven't got to do the hard work. They don't have to convince us that this is a show that should be happening, or a show that is the right direction, or this is the right cast or the right idea, because we already like it. It's already there. It already exists. We already really like what they've done with all 3 of these characters already. So I'm so excited for it. I don't think they've quite got me this excited in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So for me, because like I woke up not even 5 minutes after it was announced. Like my phone was already going off right as my alarm was going off, with people starting to message in our group chats. And like watching the video, I mean the thing that I appreciated the most is that like Anson Mount was saying, and basically everyone on the cast was saying, this is specifically because the fans wanted to see it. They saw a cast of 3 characters that they would have loved. They were like, give me that. You heard it here all the time when we were when we were reviewing like Star Trek Picard. I swear we would constantly bring up the "Give me a Captain Pike show." Give me the Captain Pike show, and I feel like so many people did that. They sent out that petition to try and get the Pike show made. I mean, the fans were all about it, and it was just really, really nice to see that they listened to that degree and really, truly did do this. What you're right is the first essentially definition of a spinoff from Star Trek, because you're taking a cast of characters that showed up in a main Star Trek show and then giving those characters their own show versus, like you said, a character that was in another show showing up in a different Star Trek as a member. They are now the primary focus of the show, and I thought that was really great. So I cried. I was very excited. I did. It was the very end. I was like, yes, hit it, please.
I wanted to cry because it was 5:05 on Friday afternoon, and I had an evening planned. And just as I was about to log off and finish work, I got a message going, "Hey, did you see that they're going to do a Captain Pike show?" And I was like, "Oh, this is great, but I am now going to have to do a video on this straight away." I was delighted, though. Honestly, I was really delighted. I think I'm really glad they're calling it Strange New Worlds because, like you say, we've all been saying, "Give us the Pike show, give us the Pike show, give us the Pike show." The Pike show sounds really weird as a name for a
It reminds me of like a talk show, like Letterman or something like that. It's like, yeah, I'm glad they picked a different name. Strange. Oh, I think what did it for me is when right before they announced that Strange New Worlds, like when they truly announced it. Like 2 days before Strange New Worlds was announced, people were starting to post the leaks and rumors that they were doing Star Trek Enterprise, and I was like hyperventilating, like, don't you dare try and call it Star Trek Enterprise. This has to be a rumor. There's no way that's actually what they're going to name it. They're naming it that as a temporary hold because it's going to take place on the Enterprise. Like, there's no way they would ever just ignore Enterprise, and I knew they wouldn't, and that's why I really liked the name they came out, because Pike would have been weird. The rumors and leaks where they kept saying it was just Enterprise, I was like, ooh, we did that already. And then I absolutely adore the title that they chose, because before we even get into that topic, it kind of gives me, and I feel like it hints at what we can expect from the show too.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the idea of you doing like a Pike show, which is just a Star Trek talk show,
yes.
like in universe, all in canon, which is just a very charismatic retired captain sitting there and having guests on talking about various like adventures they've been on. I would watch that as a web series. I think.
What if?
Yeah,
hear me out.
like that.
Hear me out. What if it's still Pike, but once he retires and he's no longer a captain because he's in the chair?
Well, I quite like that. Can you imagine a talk show presented by someone who can only communicate with three little beeps?
Beep. I want that show. If we're getting a talk show with Pike, it better be Pike in the chair, 1 beep, 2 beep, Pike.
Imagine that with a live studio audience and a live band as well. So him at the front doing a couple of jokes. Beep, 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 boom, 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 boom.
Oh my god, if someone doesn't do a parody of this online, I'm going to be super disappointed if someone doesn't parody that. We are feeding you content, internet. Please take it.
We merely provide the content. It's up to everybody else whether or not they have to choose to like it. Honestly, the title really excites me because, like I said before, like I do really like Discovery. I like a lot of what it did, but the only way it disappointed me was because it was a different show to what I thought it was going to be. Like, it's kind of a much bigger conversation, this, but we all sort of think about Star Trek as a show about exploration and about literally discovery. But if you look at sort of like critically and commercially, when it's been its most successful, it's been when it's been a show about like intergalactic war, like Deep Space Nine did its best numbers during the Dominion War, Enterprise's best numbers during the Xindi War, Voyager did its best numbers with its little personal war against the Borg. And I think Discovery going in with like this show about the Klingon War and how the alternate universe comes into all of it, it was great. I really enjoyed it, but I thought it was going to be a show about literally Discovery. I thought it was going to be about going out there and doing like the classic Star Trek trope. Here is a new planet. They have this problem, and our intrepid crew are going to solve it. And then next week we'll just never see them again. So I think the title "Strange New Worlds," I don't want to say it's like almost an admission by the producers or by CBS to say maybe we kind of got the theme and the tone of Discovery wrong. Here is the show you thought you were going to get. We'll do it with more familiar characters and building on this pre-existing story and stuff. So I kind of hope that's the direction they go with it, but I don't know. I don't know what to expect, which I suppose is like the most exciting thing. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So hitting on the Discovery real quick, I kind of agree. I think Discovery season 1 is okay, but season 2 is where it does it for me because they do kind of start to explore, even if it's more. I mean, they are going to different planets and then eventually into a different time. So it was just nice to see. I mean, even just going to Kronos was nice to see. So like I really did appreciate season 2, and I think season 3 is gonna really knock it out of the park because they are in a completely new location and everything's different. So like it's future Earth or Trill or I know they go to Trill at some point, but I actually. With Strange New Worlds, when they announced it and they said, we want to make this show, I forget what Anson Mount said, but he basically hinted at the fact that it was going to be very inspired by like classic Trek. Is kind of the vibe I got from what he was explaining. I really want to like go and look at the video and play it real quick and see, but I just remember he said something that kind of piqued my interest with. Where I had mentioned that I thought maybe Picard season 2 would be episodic. This might actually be the episodic one. I was thinking they were going to find a way to turn Picard episodic. Now that they had the crew, everyone was sitting on the bridge, engaged. Now, hey, they've got their group together. Maybe they can go planet to planet. But what I think is that's no longer going to happen. And now the Strange New Worlds is going to be that episodic show that a lot of people have been wanting for a while. And I like both serialized and episodic Star Trek. I just like to have a choice. I mean, I like Enterprise when it's, season 1, just having fun. But I also loved it during the Xindi War arc. And Deep Space Nine was my favorite because it had a long overarching plot. Discovery and Picard were both really good having a plot. But I also really enjoy the original series where I can just pop on an episode and not worry about it. Everything's back to normal next episode. So
I think... TV's kind of changed in the way they choose to write these things because I think now the go-to drive for a lot of the writing process is we have to make this unmissable, unturn-offable, binge-worthy television. And you kind of got that sense from both Discovery and Picard. This was designed to be something where you immediately needed to see what happened in the next episode so you can't turn it off. Whereas, like the Star Trek I grew up with, you could just drop in wherever the hell you liked and it was a new adventure this week and it didn't really matter. Like, I think in the UK, I don't know how it was in like America back then, but in the UK, we got one episode of The Next Generation on a Tuesday night, one episode of Deep Space Nine on a Thursday night. Sometimes you get Voyager on a Sunday, but not always. And they were all like all over the place in the timeline, like nowhere near each other. So it was all kind of not connected and a lot of it didn't really make a lot of sense. And they would loop it back around as soon as it finished.
Yeah,
so you'd watch the season finale of Voyager, and then next week they'd just be getting lost in the Delta Quadrant again. Why does this woman keep doing this with this same starship? Just stay at home.
Yeah. Here, I wasn't, I think Enterprise probably would have been the first one I would have been old enough to actually watch. But even then, I wasn't even a Trekkie until I was, I think, 18. I'm 26 now. So it hasn't quite been 10 years, but it was when I joined the military I started watching it. It was right after the first movie reboot came out. And I actually started with the original series, went and saw the movies, was like, what? And then now going back and seeing the movies again, I'm like, oh, okay, I really like these now. But when going from the original series being the only thing I saw to then watching the new reboot movies, I was just so confused. And then obviously it's been almost 10 years. I've seen every series multiple times, and I really enjoy it. But we do actually, I don't know, like what you were saying where it's different episodes. We do kind of get that because we get BBC here. And they play Enterprise. That's how I started, like, sometimes watching it even before I really got into it. It was like they put on random episodes of Next Generation on BBC Network, and I would just be like, oh, Next Generation, cool, I'll watch some. But that was the only one that I ever saw show up on TV over here through, like, reruns was Next Generation. That's the only one, at least where I've lived, that I ever saw.
Oh, those were the glory days when you used to get it on television. I had to like ride my little bike down to the library when I was really young
Yeah.
and pick up like a cassette of
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek and take it home, and it would just be a random episode. Never knew like where it was. It was never labeled by series or episode number. It was just here is the Next Generation. This one is called Conspiracy, and
That's
it was
a good
just it was really hard to like consume it. So I kind of like I watched it as a kid, then kind of drifted away from it. And it was when the Abrams one came back out. I was like, oh, I used to love Star Trek. I'll go see that film.
Yeah.
And then I walked out of it going, why did I ever stop watching this? This is
Yeah.
just the best thing.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. But real quick, while we're at a pause, I have 2 donations I got to read out real quick. The first one is going to be from Sean. He said, this is the opportunity to bring back proper episodic story-led Star Trek. Let's hope for, especially after the coronavirus, a positive version of the future. And yeah, I agree. Like I said, I would love to go back to, and not necessarily go back, because I really like having shows in Star Trek like Picard and Discovery where I can go and continue watching like as a story. But that being said, I would also love to have an episodic show again where I can just tune in, and if I missed a week, it's not the end of the world. Like, I'm not going to get spoiled for what's going to happen next. It's just, darn, that sounded like a fun episode. I'll have to go watch that one again. Like, you know, so I don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. every night so that I can watch it when it goes live. But
yeah, the thing is, now that Picard and Discovery are there and they do that kind of format of television, it would be nice if that sort of takes the pressure off from a network perspective. They go, okay, right, well, this is the one the fans wanted, so let's do it the way the fans want it done. Let's kind of do it that way. It would be nice if that's like they're sort of given the freedom to write it that way. I suspect purely just because of the way TV gets written today, it won't be. There'll be like one overarching story. Maybe they'll make it a bit more easy to jump in and jump out of, but I don't know. I'm with you. I hope they do it that way, but
I think it would be cool.
I don't know. I'd be surprised.
We have another from Amir that said, even though we know how Pike's career ends, I hope they show the elements connecting to other Star Trek series and keep it interesting. So yeah, that's kind of like a point that we were going to get into probably towards the end of the stream, is how they're going to end the show. And yeah, you're right. We do know how Pike ends, as we've made the joke. We know his fate. But yeah, no, I agree. I want to see it happen. Like, I want that to be, I want to know, like, the whole situation. And then 2, yeah, I want to see some connections to some other Star Trek. And that's something that we're going to talk about in just a little bit, actually, is what kind of connections we want to see between the two. And then I have one more person, the one who just joined our chat, because she said something that I've seen on Twitter, and I agree, because we love the man. So, yes, Yeoman Cult said, please cast Jeffrey Combs as Dr. Bryce. And yes, I've seen it all over Twitter. I saw the comparison picture where they're like, wait a damn second, because they looked a little too similar. It was like, wait a second, this would be perfect. And if you could just bring Jeffrey back for, more Star Trek, I would not complain. But I also think, because we did see so little of the Doctor compared to the other 3, well, first off, we never saw the Doctor in Discovery. But even in the pilot episode, we saw so little of the Doctor compared to the other cast members, basically the big 3, that I wouldn't be surprised if they did end up casting a character or casting someone in the place that didn't look at all like the original character. And I would be fine with that. I mean, you could have Dr. Boyce be a girl. I think that that's a possibility, is that they're going to take characters, like the big 3 obviously are going to stay the same, but I think the little tiny characters, the bridge crew, engineering, the Doctor, are going to be recast as characters. One, I think they're going to diversify the cast a little bit, because I've already seen complaints online about it, but I also think that they might even take the opportunity to change up a little bit about, like, the crew, because it was just a pilot and it didn't make it very far, so there's plenty of room to work with stuff. But if they did keep the Doctor, I would be so about Jeffrey taking the role, because I love that man.
Yeah, I think the Cage is a funny one because it's considered canon, but it's only considered canon because of the recap episode they did, and what elements of it are completely like they're one of. They've got like a complete open palette to do whatever they want with it, with the exception of Spock #1 and Pike himself, because they've already established that. I would think, I don't know, it's kind of interesting because I've just literally done some articles on that original pilot, and the whole reason it got rejected, if they kind of want to go down that avenue, would be interesting for Star Trek, because they got told it was too scientific, the pacing was all wrong, it was too slow, it was too much like actual space travel, whereas people wanted it to be like, they wanted it to be a sexy young captain who's phasering Klingons with one hand and then grabbing hot alien babes with another. So they went back and they rewrote it the way it was. But I don't know. I guess like because we said before, the whole idea behind this. It's finally that pilot getting commissioned. It's finally this character getting to go on
60
this
years
journey
later, almost.
to the 60s. Yeah, it'd be interesting if they sort of look at what that original pilot was supposed to be and the way they originally wanted to do the show, and whether that has much of an impact on how they write this. Because I love Star Trek. I love how fast and loose it plays with science. I love how it'll give you a long, rambling explanation for all the different science things.
I love the jargon.
Yeah, and then someone will go, like pulling a zipper through space. Like, I understand that now. But I would also really like to see an episode where it's like, we're just going to hit you with the science stuff, and you're going to have to take our word for it, because that's how space travel would really be. I'd be up for it. I'd like it to sort of like challenge me a bit more intellectually, but
that's actually one of the reasons that I enjoy. Enterprise gets so much shit, and I know, but I enjoy it. I think Enterprise is a good one. It used to be my least favorite, and then it slowly crawled its way up and up and up until I'm like, wow, I really like it. But that was one of the things what's up?
I always maintain if Enterprise had come along alongside, if it had been most of its run alongside when like DS9 and Voyager was still going, people would love it. I just think it was because it was the only Star Trek show for a while. People were like,
this isn't Star Trek. Yeah, it's kind of different. But I think one of the things I liked about that is that they obviously have fake science, but they do throw in a little bit of real world science behind it, just because it is so close to like it's 100 years in the future. It's not all that far. I mean, by all technicalities, people watching it nowadays, could be alive in the time that they're discussing in the show. But one of the things that stuck, I know that's weird to me. One of the things that stuck out to me the most was the one episode. Yeah, the one episode where they're like, oh, how do you get your food and water, when they're answering questions from the kids back home, which is something they do at the ISS, is answer questions from like school kids. And they're like, Trip was like, well, we recycle everything and it becomes food and drinks and stuff. And yes, everything. And that is really what happens in the ISS, is they recycle wastewater and filter it to become, usable drinking water and potable water. So I did like the little callbacks to actual space travel there, and it's those little things that I really enjoy that make Enterprise very endearing to me.
Yeah, I liked how it was a little bit more grounded in realism, except for the bit where he tells him that England are in the final of the World Cup, so that's just never going to happen. So.
But yes, T'Pol is also Bay, so she definitely puts it up there too. But I did love Enterprise. It was a good show, and I did like the little callbacks to real world science in it, and I think that would be interesting to see in Strange New Worlds, is what you were saying, if they could call back to the pilot and have it be a little more real world space, and that would be really cool. I would really like to see that. But I guess since we're on the topic, and it's been brought up, we already talked about Jeffrey Combs taking the role of the Doctor. If you could cast anyone in any role, engineering, start filling roles, what cast, who would you fill as the perfect cast for Strange New Worlds if you could have free reign outside of the main three?
Okay, so hear me out on this. Because so I've got a general point and a very specific point, right? I loved how pretty much all the Star Treks from Next Generation, that sort of era of them, from Next Generation all the way down to Enterprise, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, how they had this rotating pool of just on-demand American supporting actors and actresses who they could just get in and they would play 8 or 9 different parts. Like it would be like, there'd be a baddie in one series and a goodie in another series, different alien this, different alien that. I would just like them to go back into that.
Go back to what? Sorry, you cut out a second.
I'd like them to go back into that pool of actors, those like loosely familiar faces they have, where every time there'd be a new baddie, you'd be like, hang on, vaguely recognize that voice or that face from somewhere. Like the same, like the guy who played Wayoon being in Enterprise like half the time. Like I just want them to go back into that pool so I could be like,
that's
I know
good
who
old
that
Jeffrey
is.
for you.
I remember he was in that other one.
Yeah, that's why I think.
But...
Oh, hold on a second. Your mic is like totally cut out right now. Say something. Oh, wait, you're back. You're back a little. There we go. Sort of.
Cool.
Hopefully it catches up because there's a little bit of a lag. I'm hearing voice sometimes.
Oh,
Oh,
so
it might have caught back up.
my more
Oh,
specific
we're
point
back. We're
is
back. We're back.
pick one individual person.
Hmm.
Oh, we got it. Did you ever watch Firefly?
I did. I love Firefly. Oh, I love Firefly.
Yeah, I would like them to give Nathan Fillion a part.
Yes. Oh
Okay,
man, that'd be
that's
great.
just it's just an itch. It's an itch I'm never gonna get to scratch now. So just okay, that's done. I've made my peace with it. Go put him in Star Trek
God,
for a bit. Like, why not?
could you imagine Nathan playing the role of like the engineer? I feel like that would be his perfect role. It would be
That's the one.
engineering. Like I could just see him filling that role, doing it perfectly, being the snarky, like just just your typical engineer in Star Trek. Snarky, like endearing. Everyone loves him. You love to hate him.
I would generally. That would be. It might be a bit like distracting because like if people are like,
Mhm.
oh my god, I got Nathan Fillion in the show, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to detract from the other actors and it'd be a bit of a sideshow. But if I've got carte blanche to just cast whoever the hell I like, then I'm gonna cast Nathan Fillion.
Hell
I
yeah.
wouldn't be able to afford Chelsea Grammer, so
But yeah, I don't even know
who would
what
you
roles.
have?
Well, as I do like you said, it's that pool of original characters I thought was funny. That's why I like that everyone keeps bringing up Jeffrey Combs because, yeah, he was in Enterprise as the Andorian. I don't know why I cannot remember the name to save my life. But then he was Brunt in Deep Space Nine. He was Wei Yun in Deep Space Nine. I think it would be so funny to have him come back as a character in Strange New Worlds, because I mean it's Jeffrey. We know him. We love him. He's in all the Star Treks for the most part. Like let's see him again. But for engineering, here's my thing. We need an alien outside of Spock. I think. I would love to see another alien outside of Spock on the crew. Give me like a Bolian engineer or put an Andorian or a Tellarite on the ship. You know, I mean, they're part of the original Federation of Planets. So why isn't I would love to see an Andorian like doctor or something. You know, maybe the doctor went and got a new. Maybe this is before that doctor came on, or after he's left to a new voice. Like after he's left to a new. Like duty station or something, you know, and an Andorian or a Tellarite fills his shoes. I think that'd be really interesting. But who I would have play that? Well, I mean, we all know the best person to go play aliens is oh my god, I'm such an idiot. I can't remember his name. Plays Saru in Discovery. What is the actor's name? Why can't I remember it?
Oh, I know who you mean.
God, I hate that I can't. As soon as someone says it, it's like on the tip of my tongue. As soon as someone says it, I'm gonna be like, that's right. Someone in chat, help me, please. But I would love to see him play even a one-off character. But if I could pick anyone, absolutely anyone to fill, trying to think of maybe like a low-key actor that I think
You can
maybe
totally say
needs...
yourself, by the way.
Huh?
You can totally say yourself,
Doug Jones.
by the way.
Yeah, I mean, if it was going to be me, please put me in the show. I would happily. Cast me. CBS. CBS, here, listen.
You said Doug Jones. That's the first answer.
CBS, my Twitter handle is right here. Listen, my email's in there. You can contact me. I've done theater for several years. You know, hit me up. But, yeah, no, I was on board with Jeffrey being cast in some role. I thought that would be interesting. But I also, I'm not as picky about who plays it as I am about what kind of characters we're going to see put in, as I think my thing. But I would really like to see more, like, aliens. I really like the way that they've been doing the aliens in Discovery and Picard, and, well, not so much Picard, there was very few, but in Discovery, especially with the background aliens, there's just so much variety. I think it'd be really neat to see that.
Someone in the chat's going to have to help me out with this one as well, but I've only ever vaguely, fleetingly watched the animated series of Star Trek. Wasn't there a really weird alien that used to do the helm or something?
Yes,
and they could never put it in.
He's got the weird head. Doug Jones would be perfect for that. What is his name? He had a common name. I've seen most of the animated series. I cannot remember his name, but he's the orange guy, and he's got an odd-shaped head.
The orange one.
Very common, like, American last name that they gave him. It's really weird, but and yeah, the cat girl who I think was the communications. I thought that would be really cool to see show up.
Yeah, put them in. Put them in.
Yeah.
Make them like actual real life live action canon
Yeah.
instead of just like laboring in this little mini realm of the animated thing.
Yeah, that would be. I know they kind of mentioned it in Picard when they said they were having issues when in the sector with, again, I don't remember the race, the alien race's name, but that's when he was like, oh yeah, we're having issues with blankety blank. That was them. So I really liked the callback there.
I tell you what else I would have, and I know this was in the Next Generation. It was mentioned but never shown because they never had the budget for it. But it must surely be really easy now. I would have them include on the ship cetacean ops this time. I'd have the dolphins and the whales in their little Star Trek uniforms doing navigation, doing complex physics problems. I would have the whales and the dolphins.
Please give me whales in space again. But real quick, let's I'll go through some more chat because I almost bumped into another topic that I wanted to cover, but I'll pause for a second to read out some chats because they are I see some that are very interesting. So Amir said, how about surprisingly cast Chris Pine for Kirk again for the finale? And that one I like because I mean we already had him as playing Kirk. So it would be really interesting for him to come back just, as in an episode or something, because the timeline divulged after, or not Kirk, no, it was his father. The timeline divulged after his father's death.
Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. So Chris Hemsworth could come in,
I mean, you can either afford Chris Hemsworth or pay for about 5 episodes, I think. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we can dream. We can all dream. But then the other one from Yeoman Cult said, was the bridge officer with spiky red face? Yes, and I don't remember his name. I really was hoping someone in here knows. Eric's. Was that it?
Eric's?
Or Johnson? I'm seeing so many names. People are like, question mark? It's like Johnson, Eric's, Murray.
I'm glad
Miss Murray was the Cation. Murray was the cat one. I'm just gonna say cat because I think it's Cation, but that was Miss Murray. But I think Mores. Oh no, yeah. So I guess I don't remember his name as much, but yeah. Lieutenant Alex. That's what it is. Lieutenant Alex. I knew he had a very common. I was like, he had the most common, like, generic name. That's what it was. It was Lieutenant Alex. But yeah, I really think it would be interesting to get some actors in playing some roles of aliens again. I like the way they've done aliens, and special effects and makeup has made a huge bound since the original series, and they put a horn on a dog. So it would be really nice.
That's what I want. I want just horns on dogs.
Horns on
nice
dogs.
Callback. The Star Trek we all know and love. You know what I mean? None of the movie rubbish. I want a horn on a dog.
I want Spock to say like complete callback where he just holds up a dog with a lion's mane and a horn and antennas. Be like, oh, what is this thing? I would love that. But gosh, I speaking of who we wanted to make appearances and casting choices. Yeah, I almost started fumbling into who I want to actually make guest appearances on the show, but now that we're talking about, Kirk showing up, we can start talking about what guests we would want to see. And the big one for me, if he's still alive, because I don't know my beta canon as well as people like Jack here and Dom, who are just beta canon libraries. But if Archer is still alive, I don't think he is. Yeah. If I remember my beta canon, I don't think he's still alive. But if he is, I would absolutely love to see an aged Archer show up on the Enterprise. Even if it was just like they did the callback by name in Discovery with like the best captains to ever grace the bridge. But I think it'd be really cool for Archer.
I think he is. I think he is, because in Star Trek 2009, I'm sure there's a reference to him. Like, Scotty says he scrambled his prize beagle in a transporter. So if he's alive then, he should be alive like a little bit before. He should be. There's no reason why not.
Jack said he shouldn't be alive, but they could technically maybe make it so. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Remember in was it Next Generation, the very first episode where McCoy shows up and he is just old as fuck, and that's what I want that for Archer. Like, I want Archer to show up just absolutely old. Or hear me out, I want T'Pol back. Bring
Oh, I
me
thought you were going to
to
say "Hear me
Paul.
out, Futurama style head in a jar."
Yes, that too. But
I'd
yeah,
watch that.
or go full Doctor Who there. Start putting heads in boxes, heads in jars.
T'Pol's a great show because obviously Vulcans live a
Exactly, and
lot
that's why I was
longer.
saying it'd be great for her to show up because one, the actress has barely aged, so it would be perfect. And two, being that Vulcans do live so much longer, it would be very fitting to throw her into the show, especially having another Vulcan on the bridge, Spock. We could even have it be like where she kind of counsels him because he's brand new to the bridge. Like he is brand new. This is his first assignment, fresh on. So I think it would be really interesting for someone like DePaul to be like, oh yeah, these humans. I know you lived with one, but like, whew, I swear, ugh, smelly. But I would love to see her show up once. And then I know obviously we like Kirk. We all want Kirk to show up in some capacity, but I could name so many characters. But what character appearances would you like to see?
Harry Mudd, always Harry Mudd. I don't know why they don't just throw Q around in all the different time
Yeah,
frames.
Q would be cool.
Like, it's a continuum. It's supposed to be infinite. I would love there be some kind of Q appearance.
Yeah, Q and Mudd. Mudd's like one of those people you absolutely love to hate that man so much.
I do love to.
I love to hate him.
I love Discovery, and I did like the episodic format. I liked the serialized format of it. But the episode where they just went, okay, we're going to park all this and do a really interesting Harry Mudd episode. I was like, yes,
that one was great.
What I wanted.
Yeah, the constant redoing of time. That was like classic Star Trek. It's like stuck in a time loop. Classic Trek. I did really like that. Was a top episode for season 1. That was one of my favorite episodes of season 1. Just although my favorite episodes, hands down, are the Mirror Universe arcs because I have an obsession with the Mirror Universe in Star Trek. I absolutely love all of the Mirror Universe arcs, especially in Enterprise, that little 2-parter. That I loved, and I loved that in Discovery they called back to the Enterprise episode with the name of the ship. I forget the name of the ship that it was that they had found in Enterprise that got mentioned in Discovery. But
was it the Defiant?
The what?
Was it the Defiant?
Yes,
not
it
the
was.
Defiant.
No, it was the Defiant. Yeah, it was the Defiant, but not the Defiant. Right, but it was yeah, it was the Defiant, not the Defiant. But yes, that's what it was. And I just really liked that callback. And I love Mirror Universe arcs. The Deep Space Nine Mirror Universe arc was great. So I even the original series, the very first mention of it's just so classic Trek, and I would love to see the Mirror Universe show up, even if it's just in a one-off episode, transporter accident kind of thing. Like anything, like I really like the classic Trek.
I'll tell you what else they could do. It would be tricky from a canon perspective, but you could do Khan.
Ooh, you could, but it would be
tricky.
Yeah,
it'd be
that would
awkward
be very
to kind of
tricky.
Around, but it's possible. It's that kind of that kind of time.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, like, would it be? Ooh, you could even if you wanted to make it tricky and you did want to have him show up, you could have the Enterprise run into the USS Botany Bay, and realize what it is, and either A, completely just like refreeze them, or like not even bother opening it at all, but just have them like run into the USS Botany Bay. I think that would be a neat callback, and then be like, oh, we don't want to touch that. And then that would be hilarious for the fact that Kirk is like, we do want to touch that. We do want to wake them all up.
I kind of think it's because they've got this big gap to fill in between like that version of the Enterprise with Pike and Number One, and then how it got to sort of Kirk, Scotty, Sulu, and all this. I would quite like to see them as it goes on add members of the original cast in bit like drips and drabs, or like little transfers, or acquiring them here and there, because it's not really established like when everybody came on board. Obviously, there's Pike's going to retire at some point, Kirk's going to step in from there, but everybody else can come in really whenever they want. Like we know Spock was there before. Yeah, like it'd be really cool to see these people get added like in earlier stages of their career. Technically, even if you don't add them to the full-time cast or crew, you can have them feature pretty much anywhere, because we're only like in universe 6 or 7 or 8 years like away from when he features in the chair. So all these people should be in their careers at some point. Pretty much all of them, bar Chekhov, you would imagine, are already in Starfleet. So there's potential to bring everybody from that original series in if you want to.
That's like what I was thinking with Scotty, is like you could have Scotty technically be on the ship, but I don't think they're gonna do that. But I could see maybe like you're saying, like a finale episode where they start doing crew transfer kind of thing, where it's like, Scotty comes on the ship and Uhura takes her spot at comms, and it would be a really interesting callback. But I think they're gonna try and be a little leery of bringing too many like recurring characters, just because then people will be like, this is just Star Trek the original series 2.0.
It's a fine line, because obviously you've got like this incredible like ratings grabber effectively. Like, if you bring people in, it's always going to want to watch that because they're so familiar with these characters. But if you do it too much, then it just, as I say, it just becomes the original series 2.0, and nobody's really asked for that.
Yeah.
We don't want them to go back over that ground. This needs to kind of stand on its own. But you've got a logical reason to bring people in every now and then, and I don't know, it'd be kind of cool. I'd like to see how they do it. But the bar for reprising one of these roles, the way Ethan Peck played Spock, is high. Like, you've got to do it really well. So yeah, interesting.
He does have big shoes to fill, but I really liked his.
I don't mind big shoes.
Yeah, I really liked his portrayal as Spock. So I think it'll turn out good. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be interesting to see him play the role of Spock on the Enterprise as he was. Although, are they going to treat him more like in the pilot? Because in the pilot, he smiled, he showed emotion, and then they toned that back.
One of the lads in the pilot, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just one of them. He's just happy-go. Well, he smiles once, but the majority of the time, he's still Spock. And so that's why I was like, he does, but he shows emotion, and in Discovery, he shows emotion. He's still coping and grappling with trying to determine, I'm half human, I'm half Vulcan. This is new, this is strange, and now I'm around nothing but humans. So I could see him having a little more emotion than in the original series, just by default of the timeline, the point in time that we are.
Yeah, we talked about doing, as sort of like the topic for this video, things that people tend to get wrong about Star Trek, and I just think the subject of Spock and emotion is like, it's like the big one, because I think everybody sort of knows what a Vulcan is supposed to be, but everyone sort of assumes that Spock should be completely emotionless, and every time he's kind of shown emotion in Star Trek, people are like, he's doing that wrong, he's not supposed to have any. The fact he's half human.
Yeah, and on top of that,
I always go back to, was it Star Trek 5 or Star Trek 4, the one where he discovers that Lieutenant Valerie's the spy, and you can see he is like boiling under the surface, like he wants to strangle this woman, but he can't because he's trying so hard to suppress these emotions that he's not supposed to have. Like, the real key to like actually portraying Spock is when you do let the emotion come out. Like, I thought Zachary Quinto was excellent because of the way he did the emotional side of it as opposed to the fascinating side of it, and I think X got this as well.
Yeah, and that's sorry, I kind of lost track, but yeah, it was Star Trek 6.
6.
But,
there we go.
But that's what it was. That's the other thing is it's a lot of people have the misconception, if they're not like a huge Trekkie, is Vulcans don't have emotion, and they do. They have powerful emotions, super powerful. That's why they have to keep them, repressed and hidden, because if they act on them, like they say in Enterprise, they show it a little bit more in Enterprise. Like when they start acting on them, it gets a little scary. So they do it for the betterment of their society so much. It's not that they don't have them. They have strong emotions, and that's why I think it's such an interesting... Spock is such an interesting character, because he is half human. He has one side that's trying to suppress it, and the other side that's like, I don't care. And then you've got your extreme emotional side like Vulcan, and your just, average human emotions, and then you've got all this grappling in one being. So I would really like to see how they approach it in Strange New Worlds with Spock.
There's just so much they can do. It's like all we've basically done here is throw up a few ideas that are already connected to established things, and there's just so many directions they can go with this. Like, I'd say I was about here, like, excited level for this when they announced it. I think after the last sort of 45 minutes, I'm now about here.
Yeah. Was what? Sorry.
with like how excited I am for this. I was about here when they announced it, but I'm about here now.
Yeah, the more they talk about it, the more excited I get, and that's why I say as they start giving, like when they start announcing cast members, I feel like the excitement's just gonna rise. The more people they announce for cast members, the more excited people are gonna get, and that's why I was like, oh man, who can we have fill these shoes? Because there's a lot of roles to fill still. Because, yeah, I mean, even in the original series, you have the helmsman go down sometimes. You've got the navigator go down sometimes. Or, like, we have all these roles we can fill with main characters, and we haven't even started yet. So, it's gonna be really interesting. But we do have another donation real quick from Amir. He said, how about having a standalone Q episode, except this version went back in time, messes with them, and ends up wiping their memories to preserve the timeline? Because that's true. We only know about Q because, like, he shows up first to the Federation, or I guess to Starfleet in Next Generation with Picard. That's the first time anyone knows who he is in the pilot episode. So I think it would be interesting if he showed up and then did like a memory wipe, because then it would keep canon safe, because they wouldn't be like, oh, well, I thought the first time we heard about him was Picard, and why are we changing this now? So, why hasn't anyone talked about him if that's the case? But a memory wipe would be a good one, because it would preserve the timeline and still allow people to have their Q episodes.
Yeah, I think with the way Discovery sort of established how prominent Section 31's been, you can always kind of bat things away as like, oh, Starfleet always knew about this. It's just been suppressed information because they didn't want everybody else knowing about it. There's a million different ways you can do a Q episode. A million different ways. Like, it's the beauty of having an omnipotent species like in the canon of your show. You can just put them wherever you want, do anything with them, and you just kind of got to roll with it, because that's just how they are. Like, be anywhere, do anything, change anything. They can. I mean, Christ, Q like puts Riker on Voyager for 5 minutes, and then it's just never mentioned again because he can do that.
Yeah, and I know exactly how we can preserve the timeline and still get a Q episode. So hear me out. Remember in the original series, I don't remember what they call him, but there's that one character. I think you guys even just did a video on it and mentioned him. That one character who could see back, and he like there was like he could see back to Earth, and he was dressed in like the 17 or whatever hundreds, even though he said he could see like he was seeing the 1400s or something. He was dressed kind of like Napoleon, and he was very much omnipotent. I don't remember the name of the episode, but it wasn't Plato's Stepchildren. That was the other crazy episode. But no, this is the one. I'm gonna need help in chat again. But the crew shows up to the planet. It's designed to look like Earth in like the 14 or 1500s during Napoleon era. He says during Napoleon era, but there's a little bit of a mix match. But maybe it wasn't you guys. I think it was another channel. But I cannot remember the name of the alien. No, it wasn't Charlie. Squire of Gothos. Thank you. That's the episode. Squire of Gothos. And that guy, he fits the role of a Q. He has all the marks of a Q, like, checked. And it's been brought up before that in Square of Gothos, that guy really was a Q, and it was just not mentioned. And I think that we could do something like that, because it was in the original series, and it was something that the original Star Trek crew, Kirk and Spock and all them, had already run into. So it wouldn't be outside of the wheelhouse for a character like that to show up, not say that they're a Q, but all of the people watching know exactly what they are. And then it would make a little more sense in the original series why this omnipotent being existed and could do all this crazy stuff.
Well, that's kind of an interesting point, because as you know, they've already gone to say that we're listening to you. We know this is the show the fans want, so we're going to give it to you. If they're kind of going into this knowing that this is a show that's like specifically requested by like long-term fans, it's going to be predominantly watched by long-term fans, they can do a lot of stuff without having to like worry about either alienating or confusing like more casual viewers, because as you say, they can drop a character in who has all the qualities of a omnipotent being. It can literally be a Q, and they haven't got to spell out that this is the Q continuum who debuted in Star Trek and also featured in Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and there are this like eternally living race of aliens who take the form of whatever. They don't have to bother with any of that. They can just go, you guys know it's a Q. This is clearly a Q. Here is a Q.
And that's on top of that, you could he could even be an ousted Q, because the Qs do get ousted from the continuum sometimes, and that could even solve the concern of, oh, you know, why didn't he call himself a Q? Why did he call himself, someone said it, like, Trelane? Like, why did he go by Trelane instead of a Q? Maybe he's an ousted Q, still has some of his powers, but can't rejoin the continuum, and maybe maybe they're limited powers. So I think it would be very interesting to have a Q show up in that sense, and it still be canon and preserve the timeline.
I would say as well, like, something like a Q is under no obligation whatsoever to make sense.
Nope.
Like, it can just be as confusing or as like vague as it wants to be. Like, if you want to do a Q themed episode, you could do whatever you want, and if certain bits of it don't make sense, well, that's your problem. That's not the Q's fault.
Yeah. So I think we have one more topic we should cover before we open up to questioning from chat, and that is, what would your ideal pilot episode of Strange New Worlds be, and what would your ideal finale of the show be?
Well, ideal finale is easy. Ideal finale, I think, should be basically doing an updated remake of the original pilot, ending it there effectively.
Really?
That brings the whole thing like really nicely full circle. And I know, like, technically the stuff in that episode is not the end of Pike's time on the Enterprise. There would still be stuff afterwards, but I just think, thematically speaking, it's probably the easiest way to do it, because then technically you can watch every single episode of Star Trek that's ever been made
in order,
and then you get to the last episode of Strange New Worlds, and you effectively then can go back and start with the first episode of the original series. And it sort of ties it together quite nicely. That's how we do the last episode. As for the first episode, my God, I don't know. You kind of want to set the premise, and I think if it's supposed to be a show about actually going out and discovering things, I'd have it as like a first contact situation, probably. I would maybe have it being, you know, Pike and crew, they have to go and there's a first contact to be done. It's about sort of what they learn about themselves and the crew and the ship as opposed to what they do about the species, and that's kind of how we start it. I'd be really worried if I watch that first episode and it feels like a big story is starting the same way Discovery did. I kind of want this to feel just like, okay, that was fun. I wonder what they're going to do next time.
Yeah.
But God, you could give me weeks to come up with a premise for the first episode of Strange New World. I don't quite think I get it right. It'll be tough because it's got to be like something we've not really done before with Star Trek. So I don't know. I don't know. What would you do?
I think for a because we definitely diverge on the finale. But we're very similar on the pilot episode. I think for the pilot, I would like to see your almost, because I know even in TNG they hit you with there's a freaking omnipotent being that's overseeing you. You know, he might show up again, and he does. But I think I would even like even more standalone than that. Just like you said, an adventure, like a one-time space adventure pilot that sets up for what you're expecting. And even if I was almost even thinking using the pilot of the original pilot and remaking that as a pilot, but changing a little bit, because you got to remember that was the beginning. They were supposed to have a whole show that was supposed to follow that, so that was supposed to be, you know, start of the line. So for me, that's not an end, that's a beginning. For the ending, though, I want to see what happens, how Pike ended up in the chair. I mean, we saw glimpses of the vision in Discovery, but the whole sequence I feel like would be very emotional. I mean, you know what's going to happen, but seeing it happen is one thing, and knowing it's going to happen is another. So I think they could very, very well do a finale that is emotional, still technically a standalone, and sets up for everything that we've already seen in Star Trek.
Do you know what? I take it back. That's a much better pilot episode than a finale. You're absolutely right. Because the thing is, because the way they've jumped Discovery forward in the timeline, they haven't got to really worry about where they start Pike, right. I guess. Because if Discovery was still going and then they suddenly jumped Pike forward a couple of years, it would be a bit weird. But because that's kind of gone now, you can sort of jump it a little bit, which is, I think, all you'd have to do to start that off. So yeah, that would be good. And having him, because he's already haunted by these visions of what's going to happen to him after that episode of Discovery. So yeah, making that like the major part of his character.
I take it back. I remember why. I remember why we can't do that, because it's already happened. I'm so big dumb. I'm big dumb. It's already happened in canon. How did I forget this? They mention it in Picard or in Discovery. In Discovery, Pike meets the girl from the planet with the alien head, like the guys from the cage. How did we forget that? It already happened in canon, so it has to be after that.
That doesn't mean you can't do it though.
That's true. It could be a backtrack. That's true. It's true. It could have been previous. But it did happen technically in timeline canon already. But you're right. It could be a backtrack. Hey, here's what happened. And now anyone who's seen Discovery but not seen the pilot would understand who that girl was, what that story had to do about. It would still be a good starting pilot. It would just everyone would have to understand that it's already happened in Discovery and that now this is I think it just depends on whether or not they're setting it right before Discovery, during Discovery, or after Discovery. That's going to make the huge difference of what the pilot's going to be. But I definitely want the pilot to be finding out how he ended up in the chair. Like, that is my... If that's not the finale, I will be heartbroken. I want to know. But, yeah, the Telosians. That's right. The Telosians. I was like, the big brain head guys. There's so many alien names. I lose track after a while. But, yeah, the Telosians. That did technically happen, but we could still go back and show who they are, because if we... The new people to Star Trek don't know that. If they've never seen the pilot of the Cage, they have no idea who that is. They have no idea what that was even talking about in Discovery. So it would be cool to call back to that and almost remake the pilot.
Yeah, I was convinced that'd be a great finale, but no, you've changed my mind now. That's the perfect way to start it. Start there, then jump forward to where we know they are after Discovery, then just go with it.
Yeah, no, that would be really interesting. So I guess before we wrap up, because we still have about 5-10 minutes, probably top 10 minutes, we can open up to chat. I know there's a little bit of delay, so I just kind of awkwardly sit here for a second. But we can open up to chat for any discussion points you guys want to talk about, anything you want to see for the new show, even some reservations. I don't really have any reservations about the show, to be honest. I'm really excited. I think that they are doing it episodic. I think that was the plan all along. I think that's what they've been hinting at, and it's what I'd like to see. So I don't really have any reservations. I'm more excited than anything else. But yeah, I'll definitely open it up to chat.
It's been really positive so far, and I think it's been a while since I felt that everybody was really positive about Star Trek. Like, Discovery, I thought was great, but it was obviously quite divisive. I did our weekly roundup on Picard every week, and I would watch it and be like, do you know what? Yeah, I can see why people might not like parts of this, but overall, I'm really enjoying it. I like the story. It's great to have the character back. I think the new things they're bringing in are brilliant. And you'd constantly be fighting against people who were like, no, I hate this. This is not what I wanted. So just to see overwhelming positivity about this so far is a relief, I guess, more than anything. I've really enjoyed everything CBS have put out with Star Trek, but I know that's not been everybody's opinion. So yeah, just nice to see that people are at least giving us the benefit of the doubt so far.
Max brings up a good point, because that is something I almost was curious about with, and so Max says he wants to know more about number one's hyper intelligent backstory, but you know how even by Discovery era, genetic modification and whatnot has been outlawed. I wouldn't be surprised if it almost came out that she had a little bit of genetic modification and that was part of a backstory. Almost like, the only reason I think they might not do that would be because it's already happened with Julian in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
But it would definitely make sense for why she is, or she's just the smartest damn woman, and we stand. So, but I do definitely want to know more about her, because she didn't get much in the pilot of the original pilot, and she got some attention in Q&A. And I know that the actress who plays her is absolutely a huge fan of Star Trek, because she said that when she walked on the set, the first time she just started crying. She couldn't stop. She's like, I can't believe I'm on the set of Star Trek. Like, this is my dream. She's just crying. I was like, yeah, that would be me. Like, if I ever got cast in Star Trek, I would also, I would cry when I got on set. I'd be so professional up until I got on set, and then it would just be tears. But, yes.
No, I'd be a mess. Be a mess in wardrobe. As soon as they start my uniform, I'd be gone. That'd be it.
Yes, just tears streaming down my face. This is my happiest day of my life.
This is the happiest day of my life.
But yeah, and someone said, yeah, she might have to hide it as well, and that could be part of the story. But that's the only reason I say that I think they would avoid that is because that's the exact same backstory as Julian, with having genetic modification and having to hide it. That's the only reason I think
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I really like that because of where the genetic plot is by Deep Space Nine. It's a long time ago. Nobody does it anymore. Whereas if you think there's all this sort of hinted at eugenics wars that were never really covered that this time.
I want backstory on the eugenics wars.
It'd be a much different, even if it is literally the exact same situation of a parents took her there and they improved her cognitive abilities.
It's still
she was
far
struggling.
enough in the past.
It's so much closer to this being a huge like social issue. It's a completely different way to approach it. So I personally, that's a great idea. A great idea.
Yeah, no, I would love to see something like that. Let's see, what else? Yeah, someone said they're not opposed to recycling the plot because it's not like Star Trek doesn't do that stuff, and it's true. I mean, there's so many episodes. It's very hard not to do something similar more than it happens even with outside of Star Trek. I mean, it happens in shows. A show runs long enough is gonna have that happen, and it can be done. Yeah, someone wanted to. Kevin said maybe see Spock being groomed for first officer, which would be cool because he is. Right now, he's so new. He's very, very new to Starfleet. So it would be nice to see some kind of evolution of Spock as a character as well. I would like to see that. Let's see. I feel like I've missed stuff. Everyone's talking about Captain Riker now. So everyone's like, bring Riker there. Have Q bring Riker. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of just saying more number one, which I agree. I would love to see more of number one. I think she's a very interesting character, and Rebecca's a great actress. I would very much like to see just what they do with her because she's probably the one character we know the least about in the main three cast. Yeah. We know so much about Spock, and we know enough about Pike through the original series, the pilot, and even beta canon that it would just be really cool to have her story kind of take center stage in an episode or two, just to know more about her.
I think to an extent.
And someone said also bring in Emily Dax, who would have been right around that time.
Star Trek absolutely loves to just take like these long family lineages and just kind of pluck somebody as like a long lost. I remember Brett Spiner being in Enterprise and just thinking,
yes!
Oh, this is a great idea. I'm not sure it works, but this is a great idea. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see some like long lost relative of someone or other. I mean, the famous Picards who colonized Mars, for example, they could be kicking around by this point. I don't know. There's loads of people they could do. A Dax would be hilarious, though. I'd be so in for a Dax.
Yeah, a Dax, or someone said like Captain Lorca, like the original Captain Lorca, not mirror Captain Lorca, but real world Captain Lorca, Prime Universe Captain Lorca. Who, as like they kind of hint at him being, at least before it was the other Lorca, him being like this great captain. So, but we only see him as this absolute dick in Discovery. Like you just, like I that was the one thing that I think season one I was a little disappointed because the second he showed up on screen, I was like, he's a villain. He's a villain, right? We all know he's a villain. This isn't a surprise, right? We know he's a villain. And then it came out with it being Mirror Universe, and I was like, yeah. I knew it. I knew he was a villain. He's not Starfleet material. Like, I just don't see him being your typical captain. And so I would love to see Prime Universe Captain Lorca at some point and see the comparison between him and his Mirror Universe self, and then, like, have that dichotomy.
Anything that gets more Jason Isaacs in my life, I am entirely for.
Absolutely. But yeah, we kind of mentioned T'Pol popping up already. I know a lot of people mentioned that because she's Vulcan. She can be alive by now. So yeah, I would totally be on board with T'Pol showing up. So yeah, I think that's we have a lot to look forward to with this show. I think everyone is very excited. There is so much that can be done with it. I just can't wait. 2021 could not get here sooner.
it's nice to finally have something to look forward to at the minute as well, because with so much stuff getting cancelled or pushed back,
Yep.
I don't think any network's really been willing to like announce things because they don't want to be committal on when they can actually deliver it. So I think for CBS to go, do you know what? Let's just say we're going to do it because people really need this
Yeah.
at the minute. Let's just say we're going to do it and just say it'll be next year sometime. I'm very thankful for it.
I'm very happy. But I guess with that we can start closing out. Because yeah, I mean we've talked about a lot of the show. We've done so much discussion on a show that has literally just been announced. It is just like a 60 second clip, and we've got an hour out of it. So I cannot wait until it comes out. There's just so much brainstorming to happen. But I guess before we head out, I'll give you another few minutes to plug your stuff in case there wasn't anyone in case there's people who weren't here in the beginning. But are here now. It gives you a chance to plug the channels you work for and your content and all that stuff.
Cool, yeah. Just to be said at the start, we're here representing TrekCulture today. I don't know if anyone's more familiar with WhatCulture, which is our like TV, film, video gaming, wrestling, sports, science, like channel on YouTube. Just hit 2 million subscribers the other day, by the way, just a point of interest. Thanks for that. We decided a while ago we wanted to launch a Star Trek channel because we've got a lot of stuff going into the same channels, and we thought anything that we've got a good sort of build for and good knowledge of in the staff, we should maybe try and diversify out and start its own thing. So we decided to pick Star Trek because there's a few of us there who really know, really love the shows. Myself, I do presenting for the videos, the lists, the voiceovers, things like that. There's also Chris, our incredibly talented editor, who's kind of like the driving force behind all that. But then there's like myself, there's Ewan, Zoe, Ori, Marcus, loads of us who contribute to it, and we're just trying to get it off the ground. It's been going a couple of months. We've been doing list videos on there, a couple of podcasts here and there. I did a review of every episode of Picard when it was coming out, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, I think we're like 30,000 subs now, so it's kind of just sort of starting to pick up. So if you'd like to join us over there, we do loads of cool stuff, as indeed they do here on Trek Central. So yeah, we are just trying to do some fun Star Trek stuff. And as I said at the start, I absolutely cannot believe that I get to talk about Star Trek for a living now, because my tiny little preteen self would not have believed that. So this is a lot of fun. So we're going to have a lot of fun over this. Come join us because it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for stopping by. It was a fun discussion. There was a lot of stuff in chat that was very fun to discuss as well. I feel like everyone's just so excited for this new show, and we needed it in this dark time. So we're all waiting with bated breath for our Pike show, and we got it. So yes, shout out to the fans. Everyone give yourself a round of applause because we did this. We got the show, and that's exciting.
Did it.
Woo! So, so I guess we will see you guys next week. And in the meantime, live long and prosper.